Now we move on to the Masonic lectures. First, I would like to invite worshipful brother Dr. A.G. Jayakrishnan to deliver his lecture on Freemasonry, the way forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sana Kumar Shetty. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening, brethren, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, eternal greetings on this Universal Brotherhood Day to all of you. It's an important day in the Masonic calendar. It also happens to be
on the mic. You have to rectify.
Is it better?
No, Jayakrishnan, we can hear you. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. So thank you. And again, get back to track. It also happens to be my daughter's birthday. It's a double special day. And thanks to the Lodges of Mangalore for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation. Just to look back at my Masonic journey, it was initiated in Lodge Anantapatmaraba in Trivandrum on 12th of May 2000. When I entered, it was unlike these days, no information was available on the net or anywhere else. And I entered Freemasonry, not only blinded physically, but probably also mentally. So everything we learn nowadays, it's different. You can get a lot of information easily available on the net. I was honored to be the master of Lodge Prerana in 2011. And I've also been the past Zerubbabel in the Bala chapter and various other lodges in and around Mangalore. I was lucky that when I moved to Sri Lanka, I could experience the other constitutions, which included the Scottish and the English and the Irish constitution. Currently, I am the master of Lord St. Andrews under the Scottish constitution, and also Lord Bonnie-Doon, and I am the Joshua in Dalhousie Royal chapter. And in the English constitution, I am also the Joshua in the Hercules chapter and also a member of the Taproband Council of Royal and Select Masters. This has given me a wide exposure and also a chance, an opportunity to interact with Masons under different constitutions and experience differences. This is a picture of my installation, which gratefully some of the brethren from Bangalore, including our ARGM, Worshipful Brother Ashok Pandit, Manjunath, and two other Dr. Murthy brethren attended the meeting. It was a very happy occasion for us. So Masonry in Sri Lanka came to Sri Lanka almost at the same time, around the same time as the Masonry in India. And just like in India, the initial lodges were all Irish military lodges and followed by the Dutch. But most of them are no longer active and they are all sort of extinct. Now they have all three constitutions are present in Sri Lanka. The English, which is a district, Irish call it a province, and the Scottish, because there are only two lodges, it is not yet a district. The oldest lodge in Sri Lanka is the St. John's Lodge, which is of the English Constitution in 1839. It started in 1839. There are 10 English Constitution lodges, 4 Irish Constitution lodges, and 2 Scottish Constitution lodges. I was also lucky that I could visit the Grand Lodge in Edinburgh, and very fortunate that my visit coincided with the quarterly communication, so that I could attend the quarterly communication and also had the opportunity to meet the Grand Master Mason of the Scottish Constitution, Brother Ramsay McGee, and other grand officers. And also in the Scottish Constitution, we have a system of a proxy master, who is our representative in the Grand Lodge. So that whatever we want to communicate to the Grand Lodge, we communicate through our proxy master. So that is a good system, so that he knows us, most of us personally, and we can be regularly in touch with him and convey our concerns, our needs to the Grand Lodge, which may not be possible otherwise. So most of the Indians, the differences were in many traditions and rituals in these constitutions. There are subtle differences. They are not exactly the same. So that is what I really experienced and appreciated. The English constitution lodges are very similar to the Indian one. With that, I think we have, should I say, copied a little bit from the English constitution rituals. Main differences, just a few examples which I would like to give, is that in the Scottish constitution, the apron is always worn inside the coat, not outside, just like we do in the English or even in the Irish. And the opening hymn is always sung, and the closing hymn is always sung at the beginning and end of the meeting. And another difference which I noticed was that the altar is placed in the center of the lodge, not nearer to the master's pedestal. And more than everyone is addressed as brother. You don't address a person as a worshipful brother. It is only the title. Even the Grand Master Mason is the most worshipful Grand Master Mason brother so and so. So there is no difference. So everybody is on the level. Nobody gets upset if he is called a brother. And even the other difference is that the master is the right worship in the lodge. The master is the right worshipful master. So are the senior warden and the junior warden are also worshipful senior warden and the worshipful junior warden. I mean, these are subtle differences, but it's just that we notice it and see how things are done differently. And even in the traditions, the English, as I told you, the English traditions are very similar. Another very good matter which I noticed, the Scottish Craft Ritual book is an excellent, it's actually a reference book because it has got a lot of footnotes in small print, which explains to you why things are done in a certain way, which probably we only learn from our senior brethren here. There might be books, but it's not in the ritual book, which is always with you. For example, it's only after going through that book, I really understood that the difference between through the lodge close style and see that the lodge is close style. It's explained there why it is so. And also why the perambulation is done in a clockwise way, because it is the direction of the sun, north to south to west and east to south to the west and then to the north, because there is the direction of the movement of the sun. So these are all differences, but then you really appreciate. The book, I found it extremely useful. Of course, personal interactions from Masons of different constitutions, and since Sri Lankan Masonry is closely allied to the Southeast Asia, a lot of Malaysian brethren take part in some of the installations and communications and all that. So we get a chance to interact with them and learn about Masonic activities in those countries. I'm also the head of the charity project of Lord Bonidon, which has also given me a great exposure to these various activities. And we conducted a very successful auction in the lodge premises and collected a good amount of money.
Very good.
The second part, so to say, the second part is the way forward for Masonry. Freemasonry is a very old institution. It is at least 3 centuries old. And basically, you can think of it as a brick and mortar industry, which has entered the digital age. The real brick and mortar industry has been digitized to a large extent. The Masonic fraternity is still not yet accepted the digitization to a large extent. We have a very rich tradition, but changes have occurred over the time. In the earlier times, a lot of resistance to changes. In the earlier times, meetings were held in candlelight before the power was available. But once the power became available, there was a lot of resistance to the introduction of this into Masonry. Many senior Masons insisted on having these meetings by candlelight. But once the insurance companies came in and they forbid the use of candlelight because of fire hazard. So they had no choice. They had to change. So that kind of change was forced upon them. There was also a time when smoking was allowed inside the lodge during the meetings. But obviously that you cannot dream of that now. So these changes have occurred, but at a very slow pace. And in some lodges, even today, you can attend the lodge in your own clothing, your street clothes, without changing into a black suit or things like that. And in the Scottish Constitution, they have allowed lodges to decide whether they can allow their brethren to attend in their own clothes officially. And the Scottish Constitution is one which allows a lot of leeway to the Masons to decide, the local lodges to decide on their rituals and traditions. They do not dictate the terms. So these are things which have happened over the time, but secrecy and rituals are part and parcel of Freemasonry. It cannot be dispensed with. However, it is time that we rethink some of these things. In this context, I would like to just recall a very interesting story about rituals. So there was an ashram with a Swami and some disciples, and every day at 6 o'clock they used to have this puja. And the disciples used to arrange all these vessels for the puja. But there was a cat also living in this ashram. The cat would come and knock down many of the vessels. And this was very annoying to the disciples. So they went to the Swami to ask him permission to kill the cat. So the Swami, of course, refused. He said, "You can't do that. Why don't you just tie up the cat?" It was a very good idea. So at 5:45 p.m., all the disciples caught the cat, tied it up, and the puja went on very smoothly. So this went on for many years. Every day at 5:45, they would tie the cat. Puja would go on. And after some time, the Swami died. The new Swami took over. So he also continued the same tradition of tying up the cat and then doing the puja. After a few years, the cat died. So now there was a problem. So the disciples went to the Swami and asked, "Now what do we do? You cannot tie the cat, so how do you do the puja?" So the Swami said, "No, you go to the road, find a cat and tie him up." So many of these rituals it has become a tradition. So there is no harm in changing those. So we have to think in those lines as well. During this preparing the study, I went through a lot of material on the net. And recently I listened to a talk by Dr. David Staples, who's the Grand Secretary of the United Grand Lodge of London. They have done a lot of study onto why the membership of the Masonic fraternity is declining. And they surveyed the general population. And their findings were that 87% of the population had heard of Masonry, whereas 95% had heard of Samaritans and 88% heard of the Rotary. But unfortunately, out of that, only 49% had a firm opinion about Masonry. 51% did not have any opinion of that 87%. But the sad part is that the net favorability rate for Freemasonry was minus 27%. The lowest among all the other organizations, lower than religious organizations, Illuminati, private membership clubs. So it had a very negative, the general population had a very negative image of Freemasonry. Then they asked, what would you expect from an organization? What kind of so they could target the 51% who did not have any opinion, try to convince them to join Masonry or appreciate Freemasonry. So most of them said that the tradition of the organization is important. They would like to meet new people and they would like to meet like-minded people. They also wanted low fees. Charity was a very attractive concept for these people, and community orientation, networking, more importantly, local access. Nobody liked to travel a long distance just for the sake of attending a meeting. So these were the points that most people would appreciate. But they did not mind that Masonry was a single-sex organization, that women were not admitted was not a concern. Surprisingly, nobody was very much bothered about it. Maybe they didn't want the wives to attend the meetings as well. But the most negative opinion, the most negative aspect which people felt was secrecy, which they did not like, and affiliation to religious organizations. These were the two most negative impressions of any organization that the general public had. Another thing which they found that when you use the word association, when you use the word Masonic, the immediate word association was demonic or devil worship. But if you use the word Freemason, that was quite acceptable. So even though it's all the same, the nomenclature or the term that they use made a huge difference immediately in the people's mind, for whatever reason. And I went through another study which is published by the United States, the Grand Lodge, and it's titled "It's About Time: Moving Masonry into the 21st Century." It was a report completing a study undertaken by a special task force of Masonic Information Center Steering Committee. So they felt it is no secret that participation in Masonic fraternity has been dropping for at least 50 years. Evidence of our decline is the fact that our membership total share at the lowest levels in more than 80 years. You can't see the graph, but actually hidden by the picture. Anyway, the lowest membership, currently the membership is in 1925, the membership was more than 3 million. And the lowest was in 1940s during the Depression, where it is little lower than the current membership. Currently, it's about 1.6 million. So that is and it is staying at that without much improvement. So that is a matter of great concern that the membership has declined over the years. And again, the opinion about Masons is that the people are confused. Are we a fraternity? Are we a religious organization? Or are we an alternative religion? These are the impressions that people had. This is in the USA. And some people were, mistaken that only grandfathers could be in such an old-fashioned organization as Freemasonry. So that was the impression that the general public had. Others were oblivious. People are not even aware Masonry still exists. Some of them asked, does it still exist? Is it not extinct? So these were the responses that the general public had about Masonry. Another interesting paper which I read was titled "Restaurant at the End of the Masonic Universe." I'm not sure who's the author. Somebody actually sent it to me. This restaurant had a very good catchphrase. It said, "We take good food and make it better." Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the term, "We take good men and make them better." So it sounds very familiar to us. But the reality was that it was only a slogan. People were attracted by the slogan. They went to the restaurant, but the food was very bad. But there were some regular patrons always attending there, and they were enjoying the food, discussing certain things and ignoring the newcomers. So newcomers went, they tried for 1 or 2 times, they attended, but the food was still not good. So they complained through the regular patrons, but they didn't bother about them. They said, we are okay, we like the food. They complained to the management didn't bother about them. So gradually the restaurant lost its charm. You cannot live by slogans alone. We need to deliver. So the Masonry does make good men better, but we need to convince them that we are doing it for you, especially the younger generation. And the conclusion, he just said that, can we become better cooks? I think we can. I think Masonry can also make good men better. We do that, we should continue to do that. And lastly, the COVID crisis. It is a crisis, but is it a blessing in disguise? We have to think outside the box. We have to utilize the opportunity because certain things are forced upon us because of the COVID crisis. It has grounded a lot of organizations, but is there a silver lining on the cloud? Let us grab the opportunity with both hands. So many things are forced upon us, like social distancing, which in our rituals, for example, we have to use the clothes worn by many people, which many people may not accept it now. So maybe we have to do the initiation with their own clothes. Blindfolding may not be accepted because you'll have to guide them. Somebody will have to hold him. So social distancing will not be possible. So this may be an opportunity. There are also digital meetings. Why not? We have started now today, and Grand Lodge of Scotland has authorized Zoom meetings as an official meeting. From our lodge in St. Andrew's Lodge, we already had 2 Zoom meetings. Of course, they have given guidelines. You cannot do the rituals, obviously, or you cannot show the signs, but you can do a business meeting. You can have a business meeting, you can pass your accounts, you can standing committee meetings, and all that can be done. Our Royal Lodge of India is yet to catch up. So I think that is the way forward. And communicating with others, of course, I remember when we started sending the summons by email, there was some resistance, but now everybody accepts the summons by email, and that has become the in thing. So why can't we, do that? And even within the lodge. So, for example, why can't we use digital aids for presentations? For example, the tracing board, look at the tracing board. It is in one corner at the far end of the lodge. Another brother sitting in the other corner can hardly hear, can hardly see, or hardly hear what is being mentioned. Sometimes somebody is just mumbling. He may be doing a good job there, but we can't hear it. But if you could display that, it's like on a big screen, the tracing board, everybody can see it. You could use some amplification of the sound so that everybody can hear and appreciate it. And if you think far ahead, we can also have lectures. Everybody is not capable of memorizing. Everybody is not capable of, especially the English, Masonic English is not so easy. All may not be English, may not be their first language. So we have to think along those lines, maybe have recorded lectures. And it is like something like saying that you have to learn Sanskrit if you have to go to a temple, or you have to learn Latin, you have to go to a church. That's not possible. Most people would not go. So many younger Masons may be inhibited by this need to memorize and repeat. They are loving use of digital technology in exams. They use it in schools. So I can't Mason. We have to change. So these are few of my thoughts, which hope we can lead us or guide us to the next step forward into the digital age of Masonry. And some see change and say, why change? Others see change and say, why not change? Yet others make change happen. So we should be in the third group of making change happen for the way forward. So in conclusion, I would just like to say that Freemasonry is an ancient organization with rich traditions and rituals being part of it. It does make good men better, whatever you say, but let us use more modern technology to achieve that. Over the years, it has not kept up with change in technology and with changes in perceptions and needs of society. There is an urgent need to attract younger members and retain them. More importantly, to retain them. It is in danger of extinction in 1 or 2 generations unless radical changes are made, as is seen from the increasing average age of the members. Adoption of new ideas and blending them into our rituals is the need of the hour. Thank you very much.